When it comes to fighting, is it more important to have better defense with your hands or better defense with your feet?
Feet.
100%.
Video over. Footwork over everything.
But I think a lot of people disagree.
I don't think people, no.
Or maybe not disagree, they don't understand.
I think they would say, oh yeah, footwork's super important.
But then they don't move their feet.
You're exactly right. People give footwork lip service.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I can move my feet.
Yeah, just, and they're just sort of moving around for no reason.
And then they lock down.
When we get here,
It's here.
yeah, and they start swatting and blocking and
They
parrying.
don't move out here.
Footwork is more important, but I understand why it's underutilized. It's difficult.
I don't think it's trained, I don't think it's given the attention that it should in training that hands get.
No, absolutely not. Because you take a beginner with 2 left feet, it's so hard to get them to understand exactly what they're going to be doing with their feet. But it's super easy if you throw a punch to get me to understand doing like this or doing like that. All right. I tell the classes, my kids class, they love to, you do it. What's the first layer of defense? What's the second layer of defense? Kids class, they nail it.
Right.
First layer of defense, I consider footwork. Second layer, I consider head movement. Third is blocking and parrying. Fourth is having your hands up, period.
Right.
Why are those different? Maybe we'll get into that. But fifth is offense. Those are the 5 layers of defense in our kickboxing class. Footwork is the most important because if your footwork is in order, you don't have to use your hands.
Right.
You don't have to move your head. All right. If I am standing close enough to be hit, and then I move far enough away to not be hit, I don't get hit. I don't have to do anything else. But the purpose of footwork is to make your next thing easier.
Right, you don't just want to walk around it. Every step I take has to set up whatever my next thing is.
Right.
And I think that's the hard
It's hard to train, and it's hard to train that largely because this is my theory. I think some of this conceptual stuff is hard to train when your bad guy knows what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So say, like in the video we did about moving people around on the wall.
Right.
Right. If I'm doing like this, and I'm trying to get you to go that way, and you're like, well, I just won't.
Right.
Right? Or we do it too obvious and too fake. Like I go this way and you go, yeah, and it's just sort of like we're just going through the motions. So I get that it's hard to train. But footwork is far more important. If, Dave, you were going to throw a jab at me, and I wanted to use this parry, which I do like parrying. I think it's great to learn. I think people become overly reliant on it. They start swatting.
And parry, yeah.
The swat and flies. You see beginners that parry punches that you haven't thrown yet.
Right.
They're like,
Yeah. And then...
yeah. If I use just a little bit of footwork and I just take the tiniest little goodest best angle, that parry becomes easier.
Right.
Right? So throw one right here, right? Parry, parry. No, go ahead, right here. There we go, let's go. Parry, parry. That makes it way easier and makes me less susceptible to a fake and then a hook. If you fake that to your left hook, yeah. Just a little step.
But you also use less energy by simply just taking the steps than if you were to just lock down.
I think it's because footwork, all defensive movement is small movement.
Yeah.
And so that people think, well, if I'm here, we're neutral, we're 50-50.
Right.
Rock'em sock'em robots, like most beginners. And I take my little step. People don't realize exactly how much this is accomplished.
Right.
Let's look at the orientation of our feet here. This is 50-50. Our feet are largely similar, right? When I take just the tiniest little step pivot and get it exactly right, it doesn't look like much is different. And you might think, oh, well, am I closer to that hand? Instead of I give him more power in his left hook
But
or
I'm
whatever.
completely off from throwing what I like.
Look at this. Put your left hook right here. All right, and this is pretty optimal distance for that left hook. Left hook specifically. All right, left hook specifically. This is Dave's best left hook. Yeah, I'm eyeballing the striking coach.
Yeah.
The striking coach in me is like, what? This is optimal. This is almost perfect. This is almost the most powerful punch you could throw. If I just take a little step here and a little step here, that punch completely misses.
Right.
The difference between a catastrophic, devastating knockout and a complete whiff is a 2.5-inch step here and a 1.5-inch pivot here.
And people that would argue, well, you can block with your hands. I mean, you're
that still sucks.
You're still going to eat, and I'm
block
just
this,
gonna
Dave.
Yeah.
Rah!
I'm immediately going to follow up with everything else right after too. When you change that smallest little motion, I now have to adjust, and at that point, you're now already at a better position.
But the barrier for entry to good footwork is much higher than the barrier for blocking.
Yes.
If I go if I don't have a lot of brain cells to begin with, and I don't mind losing some, and you're going to hit me with a flurry, and I go like this, I definitely didn't get punched in the face. I still got rattled, and it's still unpleasant, but I didn't get my nose broken.
Right.
Or I might not have got knocked out. Still minor concussion probably in there somewhere if you're taking a lot of that. Whereas to get this exactly right, the margin for error is so small.
Right.
Inches, man, inches. That's the thing.
So do people just not teach as much because of how difficult it is? Because I feel this is something that applies more than just boxing. MMA, anything self-defense.
I would argue, and this has been my experience recently when I was up at Endeavor with Aaron and them.
Right.
And I was grappling with some of the women who were even smaller than me. I'm a little guy.
Right.
So these people even smaller than me. And they were like working me.
Right.
Because of footwork.
Right.
So even in grappling, even the standing clinch, which I don't know how to do any of it. We were tied up and they were moving their feet exactly right. In judo, footwork is super important. I think footwork, positioning is, I don't even think that's a controversial statement. See, it's the most important part of all combat.
Right.
Even grappling, I often, when we have a BJJ class here, right? I don't teach it, obviously, right?
Two-strike white belt.
Yeah, but when new guys are trying to understand shrimping, and I'm like, that's the footwork of grappling.
Well, the funny thing is like when it comes to most, I won't bash any instructors, but again, most striking coaches that I see, if we're doing combinations and you want me to work off on the side, they don't tell you, tiny step, it's all right, work off on the angle, and you'll see guys lunge out here, which may be fine, but it's still big. It's a big gap. But when you do grappling, and you're like, okay, go ahead and pass, and guys pass big, then immediately you recover. And so it's like, oh no, you gotta take tiny baby steps. And so for grappling, it's emphasized.
Yeah,
striking
because it won't work at all.
Correct.
If you don't get it right.
Right.
Whereas in striking,
I feel like it depends on the level. It might just be like at the higher levels, that's gonna get you. But like at the beginner, like when we're here, it's like, oh, I'm off.
Huge movements. Beginning MMA guys are the kings of this move right here. They know that they're supposed to do some offline things, so they pitch themselves off balance. They go 1, 2, take a big step and a big step, and everything's so big. Whereas higher level strikers stand much closer, and make little tiny adjustments. So I get why it's devastating. You don't get instant feedback about whether what you're doing is working or not, like you do in grappling. In grappling, when you make a bad pass,
you know right away.
You lose it right away. But if we're not fighting full contact, if you're not really trying to punch and kick me, and you're just sort of letting me drill, drill. This is not a drill, by the way. This is not a drill. Boom, 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 boom. Now you go. Boom, 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 boom. That's not a drill. By the way, I don't know if you know what drilling is. That's not it. But that's a different video. It's small. All right? Because we have to account for realistic movement from you. What would actually happen? Boom, boom. You would start to turn and open me up a lane. Right? When I do this little step pivot, I've now I can put you onto your heels more easily with linear attacks. There's like all kinds of little things.
You have split moments where you can take complete advantage of that position.
And I think that's why it's hard for people to train it, is because it's way past diminishing returns for a novice. Like you can be really good at footwork as a novice and not really understand like how to make it work. Like you can have really good fancy feet. And get decent mileage out of it against.
So I will rephrase. Like I think you're right. I think a lot of people understand that footwork is the key to defense. But I think they're just like, I know how to move my feet, and I think they just take it as long as I'm hitting, and you'll get like, I'm gonna be okay.
You'll get mileage out of it, but if you want to really reach the highest levels,
you gotta train it.
You gotta find ways to train it specifically. Like I do one in the front kick course where your job is to front kick me anytime I walk close. All right, boom. Boom, and we just do this. Now we got it, right? So now my job is to make that more difficult through footwork. So I'm coming in, I get front kick. Go ahead, just anytime I come close, front kick. If we mess it up, it's fine, leave it. All right, boom. Right, and then I just...
that throws me off.
Yeah, just so you can feel that. And we never get a good, clean, perfect moment. But you got the feeling, just those little tiny adjustments as you're...
I have to adjust.
I'm disrupting your OODA loop again, right? Step and kick, boom. Step and kick, boom. Just that little, but that's not fun. That's not as ego-affirming as sparring, It's a little harder to explain. It's frustrating to not get it right.
No, but that's drilling.
That is a drill. By the way, that's a drill.
That's a drill. But that applies, if we're going to sum it up, that applies to everything. That applies with the grappling, as you said, even if you're going against like somebody smaller, like using those small footwork to get off on a good angle to where now you're in complete control because I just took a half a step this way, but now
I'll be at fleeting control. Fleeting control. Okay, cool. Do an outro.
So footwork. Understand it, train it.
Bingo.
Bingo.